The iron chains bit into Cecilia's wrists as two guards hauled her across the packed earth of the courtyard. Every member of the Shadow Moon Pack had gathered in a semicircle around the massive stone arena that rose like a coliseum of death at the heart of their territory. Hundreds of eyes tracked her stumbling progress, and the whispers cut deeper than the metal cuffs. She tried to keep her head down, tried to make herself smaller, invisible, the way she'd learned to survive these past 3 years working in the pack kitchens. But there was no hiding now. Not when the beta stood at the arena's entrance with a scroll in his hands and murder in his eyes. "Cecilia Thorne," Beta Dominic announced, his voice carrying across the assembled pack. "You stand accused of theft, deception, and crimes against the Shadow Moon Bloodline." Her heart hammered against her ribs. This couldn't be happening. She'd been so careful, kept her head down, never drew attention. How had they found out? "I didn't steal anything," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. "Please, there's been a mistake." "Silence!" Dominic snapped the scroll open. 3 nights ago, an ancient artifact was taken from the Alpha's vault, the Moonstone Pendant, a relic of our founding bloodline. The security wards detected your scent in the corridor outside. The crowd erupted in angry murmurs. Cecilia's blood turned to ice. She'd been in that corridor, but only because she'd been scrubbing the floors. She was a servant. She cleaned everywhere in the pack house. "I clean that hallway every week," she said, trying to keep her voice steady, even as panic clawed at her throat. "Of course my scent would be there. I never entered the vault. I swear it on my life." "Your life is precisely what you'll be swearing." A new voice cut through the noise, and the crowd parted like water. Alpha Jeremiah strode toward the arena, and despite everything, despite the terror coursing through her veins, Cecilia felt her breath catch. He was massive, easily 6.5 feet of pure muscle and predatory grace. His dark hair fell to his shoulders, and his eyes were the color of molten amber, burning with an intensity that made her want to look away and step closer all at the same time. She'd seen him before, of course. Everyone in the pack knew their alpha. But she'd made it her mission to never be noticed by him, to fade into the background of servant life where no one looked too closely at who she really was. Now those amber eyes locked onto her, and she felt stripped bare, as if he could see every secret she'd buried deep. "The Moonstone Pendant has protected this pack for 2 centuries, Jeremiah said, addressing the crowd, though his gaze never left her. "Without it, our borders are vulnerable. Our enemies could strike at any moment. If someone among us has betrayed the pack to steal it." He paused, and the weight of his authority pressed down on everyone present. "Then they will face the ancient judgment." "I didn't take it," Cecilia whispered, but her voice was lost in the surge of the crowd's bloodlust. "Then you'll have no fear of the trial," Dominic said, gesturing to the guards. "Take her to the arena." The arena. Cecilia's legs nearly gave out as they dragged her forward. She'd heard stories about the arena, whispered in the servants' quarters late at night. It was where the pack conducted trials by combat for the most serious accusations. But there was something else kept there, something worse than any warrior opponent. They hauled her up the stone steps, through the arched entrance, and she found herself standing in the center of a circular pit 30 feet in diameter. The walls rose 12 feet high, smooth stone impossible to climb. The pack ringed the top, looking down at her like she was already dead. A heavy iron gate stood opposite the entrance where they'd brought her. Behind it, she could hear something moving, breathing, growling low and hungry. 3 days ago, we captured a rogue Lycan terrorizing the northern villages. Jeremiah's voice rang out from where he stood at the arena's edge, directly above her. It has not fed since. The ancient law is clear. If an accused can survive 15 minutes in the arena with the beast, they are proven innocent. If they cannot... He didn't finish. He didn't need to. "No!" Cecilia gasped, backing toward the wall. "Please, you can't. I'm just a servant. I don't have any combat training. I can't fight a Lycan." Lycans weren't like regular werewolves. They were larger, more feral, locked permanently in a half-shifted state of claws and fangs, and barely controlled rage. Even trained warriors struggled against them. A Lycan that hadn't fed in 3 days would be absolutely savage. "Then you should have considered that before you betrayed your pack," Dominic said. He raised his hand, and the guards moved toward the gate's mechanism. "Wait!" Cecilia's voice cracked. "Please! I have nothing to do with this. Whoever took the pendant, it wasn't me. I'm nobody. Why would I—" But Jeremiah raised his hand, and the guards cranked the wheel. The iron gate groaned upward with the shriek of metal on stone. The smell hit her first. Blood and rot and wild musk. Then she saw it. The Lycan emerged from the darkness on all fours, bigger than any werewolf she'd ever seen. Its body was covered in matted gray fur, muscles bunching and rolling beneath the skin. Its muzzle was elongated, filled with teeth like daggers, and its eyes glowed a sickly yellow in the shadow of the gate. Those eyes fixed on her, and it snarled, a sound that came from the depths of the earth itself. Cecilia pressed herself against the arena wall, her heart threatening to shatter through her chest. This was it. This was how she died. Torn apart by a monster while her entire pack watched, accused of a crime she didn't commit. The Lycan took a step forward, then another. Saliva dripped from its jaws as it scented her, its massive head lowering in hunting posture. She could feel her wolf stirring inside her, that buried part of herself she'd kept locked away for 3 years. It sensed the danger, wanted to surface, wanted to shift and fight. But she couldn't. If she shifted, if she revealed what she really was, it would be worse than death. So she stood, frozen, as the Lycan gathered itself to charge. It lunged. Cecilia screamed and threw her hands up in a useless gesture of protection, knowing it wouldn't be enough, knowing those claws would tear through her like paper. The Lycan stopped. Its massive body went rigid mid-leap, landing just inches from her with enough force to crack the stone beneath its claws. For a moment, nothing moved. The entire arena held its breath. Then, slowly, the Lycan's head lowered. Its ears flattened against its skull, and it dropped to its belly in front of her, pressing its muzzle to the ground in a gesture of complete submission. The silence that followed was deafening. Cecilia stared at the creature prostrated before her, her mind struggling to comprehend what she was seeing. This didn't happen. Lycans didn't submit. They killed. That was their nature, their purpose. "What?" she breathed. "What are you doing?" The Lycan didn't move, didn't even lift its head. It lay there trembling, a low whine escaping its throat, not of threat, but of reverence. "Impossible." Dominic's voice drifted down from above. "It must be some trick, some—" "Silence!" Jeremiah commanded, and Cecilia could feel the weight of his stare on her. "I want to see this." Her hands were still raised, still shaking. Slowly, she lowered them. The Lycan remained motionless, its yellow eyes half closed, its breathing evening out to match hers. Something was happening, something she didn't understand. Her wolf stirred again, pushing against the barriers she'd built, and she felt a pulse of power radiate from her chest, warm and golden and utterly foreign. The Lycan whined again and pressed its head lower, as if trying to make itself smaller before her. "I don't understand," she said, more to herself than anyone else. "Why won't you attack?" But even as she said it, something deep in her bones knew, recognized. This wasn't submission born of fear or training. This was something older, something primal. This was recognition of what she truly was. "What manner of deception is this?" Another voice rang out, Luna Seraphina, the Alpha's mother, her tone dripping with suspicion. "The girl is using dark magic. She must have enchanted the beast." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Cecilia's heart sank. Of course they would think that. Of course they wouldn't believe. "Remove her chains," Jeremiah said. Everyone fell silent again. Dominic stared at his Alpha in disbelief. "Alpha, if she's using magic, we should remove her chains." 2 guards descended into the arena, their movements wary as they approached. The Lycan's head lifted slightly, its lips pulling back in warning, but it didn't move from its position of submission, not until the guards unlocked Cecilia's shackles and backed away. The moment the iron fell from her wrists, the Lycan rose to its feet. It moved with careful deliberation, keeping its body low and non-threatening, and positioned itself between Cecilia and the guards, protecting her. "I didn't do anything to it," Cecilia said, her voice gaining strength even as confusion overwhelmed her. "I swear I've never seen this creature before. I don't know why it's—" "Show me your neck," Jeremiah said, his voice cutting through her protest. There was something in his tone now, something that hadn't been there before. Not suspicion, curiosity, perhaps even recognition. Cecilia's hand instinctively flew to her throat, where her servant's collar had sat for 3 years. Beneath it, hidden from view, was the thing she'd protected above all else, the secret she'd rather die than reveal. I can't." "You can," Jeremiah said, and now he was moving, descending the arena steps with fluid grace. "And you will, because that Lycan knows what you are. I want to see it for myself." The pack pressed closer to the arena's edge, hungry for answers. The Lycan growled softly, still positioned between her and potential threats, its massive body a shield. Jeremiah stopped at the arena's floor, 10 feet from her. Up close, his presence was overwhelming. The sheer dominance radiating from him made her wolf whimper and press against her consciousness, wanting to submit, wanting to show throat. But submission was the last thing she could afford. "Please," she whispered, "don't make me do this. I've lived quietly. I've hurt no one. I just want to—" "The Moonstone Pendant was stolen 3 days ago," Jeremiah interrupted, his amber eyes boring into hers. "That same night, our border wards detected an intrusion from the east. The Bloodfang pack has been testing our defenses for months. If they have the pendant, they will attack." He took a step closer. "I need to know who you are, because that Lycan is bowing to you like your royalty. And in 3 years of you working in my pack house, I never once sensed what you're hiding." "How could you?" Cecilia said bitterly. "You never looked at me. No one did. That was the point." "I'm looking now." The gentleness in his voice nearly broke her. She'd spent 3 years invisible, a ghost moving through the pack house, scrubbing floors and serving meals and keeping her eyes down. She'd perfected the art of being nothing, no one, beneath notice. But this moment in the arena with hundreds watching and a Lycan at her feet and the most powerful alpha in the region standing before her, asking to see what she'd hidden. There was no escape from this. Slowly, her hands trembling, Cecilia reached up and pulled down the collar of her servant's dress. The mark blazed across her skin like frozen lightning. A crescent moon, cradled between 2 wolves, rendered in silver that seemed to glow with inner light. It covered the left side of her throat, beautiful and unmistakable and absolutely damning. The crowd erupted. "The moon's chosen!" someone gasped. "The silver bloodline!" another breathed. "Impossible! That line was destroyed!" Jeremiah stood completely still, his eyes fixed on her mark. When he finally spoke, his voice was carefully controlled. "What is your full name?" Cecilia's throat tightened. She'd kept it secret for so long, buried it so deep. But there was no point in hiding anymore. "Cecilia Ravencrest," she said quietly. "Daughter of Alpha Theodore Ravencrest of the Silver Moon Pack. Last surviving member of the Moon's chosen bloodline." The words fell like stones into water, rippling outward in waves of shock. The Silver Moon Pack had ruled the Eastern Territories for 500 years, their bloodline blessed by the Moon Goddess herself with the ability to command any wolf, even the most feral, even the most lost. They'd been slaughtered 6 years ago. Every man, woman, and child killed in a single night when 3 rival packs united against them, jealous of their power and fearful of their influence. Everyone thought the bloodline had been extinguished. "You were 16 when your pack fell," Jeremiah said, and she could practically see him piecing together her history. "You should have been killed with the others." "I was away," Cecilia said, and the memory of that night still made her chest tighten with grief. "Visiting my aunt in the neutral territories. By the time I heard what happened and returned home," her voice cracked, "there was nothing left. Just ashes and blood and bodies." The Lycan pressed against her leg, offering wordless comfort. She reached down without thinking, her fingers tangling in its matted fur, and it leaned into her touch like a puppy desperate for affection. "I knew what would happen if anyone discovered who I was," she continued. "The packs who destroyed my family would hunt me down. Others would try to use me, force me to command their wolves and build them empires. So I hid. I found the furthest pack I could, one large enough that a new servant wouldn't draw attention, and I buried everything I was. For 3 years, you scrubbed floors and served meals and pretended to be powerless. It was the only way to survive." Jeremiah moved closer, and the Lycan tensed but didn't intervene. He stopped just inches from her, so close she could feel the heat radiating from his body, could smell the pine and leather scent that marked him as dominant. "Look at me," he commanded gently. She lifted her eyes to his, and the moment their gazes locked, something slammed into her chest with the force of a physical blow. Her wolf surged forward, howling with recognition and need and desperate longing. The world seemed to tilt, and she gasped as golden light exploded behind her eyes. Mate. The word echoed through every cell of her body, undeniable and absolute. No. No, this couldn't be happening. Not now, not him. But Jeremiah's eyes had gone wide, his pupils blown and his breathing suddenly ragged. His hand shot out and gripped her arm, not painful, but possessive, claiming. "You," he growled, and his wolf was right there in his voice, pushing to the surface. "You're—" "Don't." Cecilia yanked her arm back, stumbling away from him. "Don't say it, please." But it was too late. The mate bond had snapped into place between them, a golden cord of power and promise that she could feel thrumming with life. And from the looks on the faces of the pack members above, they'd felt the power surge too. "Mine," Jeremiah breathed, and the single word carried enough dominance to make every wolf in the arena bare their throats. "You're my mate." "I can't be," Cecilia said, even as her traitorous body swayed toward him. "I'm nothing. I'm no one. I'm just—" "You're the last daughter of the most powerful bloodline in our history," Jeremiah cut her off, closing the distance between them again. "You carry the blessing of the moon goddess herself, and you're mine." The possessiveness in his voice sent shivers down her spine. Part fear, part something much more dangerous. "The pendant," she managed. "I'm still—" "Accused Dominic!" Jeremiah called without taking his eyes off her. "Who raised the theft accusation?" There was a pause from above. When the beta spoke, his voice was tight. "Luna Seraphina brought it to my attention, Alpha. She said she'd detected Cecilia's scent near the vault." Cecilia's blood ran cold. Seraphina, the Alpha's mother, who'd always watched her with suspicious eyes, who'd assigned her the hardest tasks and never missed an opportunity to criticize her work, who must have somehow discovered what she was hiding. "Mother," Jeremiah said, and the temperature in the arena seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Would you care to explain how you came to suspect a servant girl of theft?" Seraphina appeared at the arena's edge, her elegant features twisted with barely concealed rage. She was beautiful in the way poisonous flowers were beautiful, all sharp edges and deadly grace. "I was protecting our pack," she said coolly. "When I detected her scent near the vault, I investigated further. What I found was disturbing." "Speak plainly." "The girl carries the mark of the silver bloodline," Seraphina said, gesturing dismissively at Cecilia. "The same bloodline that was destroyed for their attempts to dominate all wolf packs under their rule. Their power was an abomination, allowing them to strip free will from any wolf they chose. Is that the kind of Luna you want for this pack, Jeremiah? A creature who could command your every move?" The crowd murmured, uncertainty rippling through them. Cecilia felt her heart sink. This was exactly what she'd feared. The prejudice, the fear, the historical lies twisted to make her kind seem like monsters instead of protectors. "That's not what our power was for," she said, her voice stronger now despite her fear. "The moon's chosen were blessed to protect those who couldn't protect themselves, to calm feral wolves, and bring peace to those consumed by their beasts. My family used our gifts to help your family use their gifts to rule," Seraphina cut her off. "Until 3 packs rose up and put them down like the rabid dogs they were." The Lycan snarled, its hackles rising at the insult, and Cecilia felt her own anger flare hot and fierce. "My family was slaughtered in their sleep," she snapped. "Children murdered in their beds. Elders burned alive. If that's justice to you, then I'm glad I hid who I was. Better to scrub your floors than be called sister by wolves who celebrate genocide. Enough! Jeremiah's voice cracked like a whip. He turned to face his mother, and his expression was carved from stone. Did you take the pendant? The question hung in the air like a blade. Seraphina's eyes widened with false innocence. How dare you accuse me? Did you take it? It wasn't a question anymore. It was an alpha command, and the power behind it pressed down on everyone in the arena like a physical weight. Seraphina's face went pale, her body rigid as her wolf was forced to submit to the dominance. The pendant is safe, she finally ground out through clenched teeth. I secured it because I believed a threat had infiltrated our pack. I was trying to protect. You accused an innocent woman of theft and sentenced her to death by Lycan to hide your own actions, Jeremiah interrupted, his anger radiating like heat. Why? Seraphina's mask of composure cracked. Her lips pulled back in a snarl. Because she's one of them, she hissed, pointing at Cecilia. I've spent 6 months tracking down rumors of a survivor from the Silver Moon Pack. When I finally confirmed it was her, hiding here in our own territory like a coward, I knew I had to act. The pendant is the only thing keeping our borders secure. Without it, we're vulnerable to attack. So you planned to have her killed, then conveniently find the pendant after she was dead, making yourself look like the hero who recovered it. I did what was necessary, Seraphina said coldly. The Eastern Pacts already suspect we're harboring her. If they discover the truth, they'll unite against us just like they did against her family. She's a danger to everyone here, Jeremiah. Can't you see that? What I see, Jeremiah said with terrifying calm, is a wolf who betrayed her alpha's trust, manipulated pack law, and attempted to murder an innocent woman who happens to be my mate to serve her own prejudices. He turned to Dominic, who stood at the arena's edge looking torn between duty and disbelief. Beta Dominic, you will escort Luna Seraphina to the holding cells pending a full tribunal. She is stripped of her title and authority effective immediately. The crowd erupted in shocked gasps. Seraphina's face went white, then red with rage. You would choose her over your own blood? She screamed. That creature will be the death of this pack. When the Eastern Wolves come for her, they'll tear through our territory. The Eastern Wolves will do nothing, Jeremiah said with absolute certainty. Because Cecilia Ravencrest, last daughter of the Moon's Chosen, will be standing at my side as Luna of the Shadow Moon Pack. And any wolf foolish enough to threaten her will answer to me. The declaration rippled through the assembly like a shockwave. Cecilia felt her knees weaken, her mind reeling. Luna. He wanted to make her Luna. I can't, she whispered, though even she wasn't sure if she was speaking to him or to the fate that was crashing down around her. I'm not ready. I don't know how to. Jeremiah crossed the distance between them in 2 strides. His hand came up to cup her face, tilting her chin so she had no choice but to meet his burning gaze. You've been ready for 3 years, he said softly, though his voice carried to every corner of the arena. You've served this pack with loyalty and strength while carrying a burden that would have broken most wolves. You've hidden your power to protect yourself. But I'm asking you now, stand with me. Let me protect you for once. His thumb traced the mark on her throat, and the touch sent electricity racing through her veins. The mate bond pulsed between them, warm and insistent, demanding to be acknowledged. "Everyone fears what I am," she said quietly. "Your mother isn't the only one who thinks the silver bloodline is dangerous." "Then we'll teach them the truth," Jeremiah replied. "Together. But first, you need to accept what we both know is real." He leaned in closer, his forehead nearly touching hers, his breath warm against her skin. "Say you're mine, Cecilia. Say you accept this bond." Her wolf was howling, desperate for her to close the distance, to give in to the pull she'd been fighting since the moment their eyes met. Every instinct screamed at her to surrender, to take what was being offered. But fear still held her frozen. Fear of being seen. Fear of the power she carried. Fear of what would happen when the world learned the silver bloodline wasn't as dead as everyone believed. The Lycan pressed against her leg again, its presence grounding. She looked down at the massive beast that had bowed at her feet, that had recognized her worth when everyone else saw only a servant. Then she looked back up at Jeremiah, at the male who'd stopped his pack from killing her, who'd defended her against his own mother, who was offering her not just survival, but belonging. Maybe it was time to stop hiding. "I accept," she whispered. "I accept the bond. I accept you." The words had barely left her lips when Jeremiah's mouth crashed down on hers. The kiss was possession and promise wrapped into one. His hands came up to frame her face, gentle despite the fierce hunger in the gesture, and Cecilia felt the mate bond snap fully into place with a rush of golden light that made her gasp against his mouth. Power surged through her, his strength flowing into her veins, her blessing weaving around his wolf, two souls recognizing each other as halves of a greater whole. The sensation was overwhelming, beautiful, terrifying in its intensity. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, the entire pack was on their feet, some cheering, others still looking uncertain. But Jeremiah didn't seem to care about any of them. His eyes were locked on her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. "Mine," he growled again, and this time, she didn't argue. "Yours," she agreed, and felt something in her chest settle into place. Something that had been broken and lost for 6 years, finally made whole again. Dominic appeared at the arena floor, still looking shell-shocked by the evening's revelations. Behind him, 2 guards were escorting a furious Seraphina away, her protests echoing across the courtyard. "Alpha," the beta said carefully, "what are your orders regarding the pendant?" Jeremiah turned without releasing Cecilia from his hold, keeping her tucked against his side in a clear statement of protection and claiming. "My mother will return the pendant and face tribunal for her crimes," he said. "The theft charge against Cecilia is dropped, and effective immediately, I want it announced to all neighboring packs that Cecilia Ravencrest has claimed sanctuary in Shadow Moon territory as my mate and future Luna. Alpha, the Eastern Pax, will be informed that any aggression toward her will be met with the full force of Shadow Moon's warriors," Jeremiah finished. "Furthermore, I want it known that the Silver Bloodline's persecution was built on lies and fear. Cecilia's gifts are not weapons of domination, but tools of healing. Any pack that wishes to challenge that is welcome to meet me in single combat." The declaration was bold, potentially reckless, and absolutely the kind of statement that would send shockwaves through the wolf community. but it was also the kind of unwavering support Cecilia had dreamed of for 3 years. Someone who would stand with her, not in spite of what she was, but because of it. "Thank you," she said softly, and meant it with everything in her. Jeremiah looked down at her, his expression softening. "You don't thank your mate for protecting you," he said. "That's what we do." The Lycan, which had been watching the entire exchange with intelligent eyes, suddenly rose to its full height. It padded over to Jeremiah and, to everyone's shock, lowered its head in the same gesture of submission it had shown Cecilia. It's accepting you," Cecilia breathed. "Because of the bond. Because you're mine now, too." "Can you communicate with it?" She'd never tried. The blessing had always terrified her too much to experiment with, and the few times it had manifested accidentally, she'd shut it down immediately. But now, with Jeremiah's solid presence beside her and the mate bond singing through her veins, she felt brave enough to try. Cecilia reached out with that golden power she'd kept locked away for so long. It flowed from her like warm honey, wrapping around the Lycan's consciousness with gentle insistence. The beast's eyes brightened, the sickly yellow clearing to a warm amber, almost like Jeremiah's. It was still feral, still dangerous, but the mindless rage had been soothed. In its place was clarity, awareness, and a profound sense of peace. "He's been lost for so long," Cecilia murmured, feeling the echo of the Lycan's torment through her gift. "Trapped between man and wolf, unable to control the shift. He didn't choose to become this." "Can you help him?" I don't know. I've never done this on purpose before, but I can feel him now, feel what's broken inside. Maybe with time?" The Lycan made a sound deep in its chest, not a growl, but something closer to a purr. It pressed its massive head against her hand, and she felt its gratitude wash over her in waves. "I'll try," she promised. "I'll help you find your way back." Jeremiah's hand came up to rest on her shoulder, his touch grounding and supportive. "This is what your gift is meant for," he said quietly. "Not control. Healing. My mother and the wolves who destroyed your pack, they were afraid of something they never took the time to understand. Fear makes people cruel. Then we'll give them understanding instead, starting with this pack." He turned to address the assembled wolves, his voice carrying with alpha authority. "What you witnessed tonight is proof that the stories told about the Silver Bloodline were propaganda designed to justify genocide," he announced. "Cecilia Ravencrest used her gift to calm a feral Lycan, not to dominate it. She has lived among us for 3 years as a servant, never once using her power to manipulate or control, despite having the ability to command every one of us." The crowd shifted, uncertainty gradually giving way to curiosity and, in some faces, shame. "She chose kindness when she could have chosen power. She chose service when she could have chosen domination. And she will be your Luna, not because I command it, but because she has already proven herself worthy of the title through her actions." A voice called out from the crowd, one of the older warriors, his face weathered with decades of service. "What would you have us do, Alpha?" "Treat her with the respect due to your Luna," Jeremiah said simply. "Learn from her. And understand that the gifts the moon goddess bestows are meant to strengthen the pack, not threaten it." Slowly, starting with Dominic and spreading through the crowd like a wave, the pack members began to kneel. It wasn't forced submission through dominance. It was chosen respect. acknowledgement of both their alpha's judgment and the truth they'd witnessed. Cecilia felt tears prick her eyes as hundreds of wolves bent their knees to her, not out of fear, but acceptance. After 3 years of being invisible, of being nothing, she was finally being seen. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Say you'll stand with me," Jeremiah replied, pulling her closer. "Say you'll let me help you become everything you were meant to be." She looked up at him, this alpha who'd seen past her servant's disguise to the broken princess hiding underneath, who'd claimed her as his mate without hesitation, who was willing to risk his pack's alliances to protect her. "I'll stand with you," she said. "I'll be your Luna. I'll help this pack understand what my bloodline was meant for. And I'll—" She paused, vulnerability creeping into her voice. "I'll try to be worthy of this." "You already are," he said, and kissed her again, softer this time but no less possessive. When they broke apart, he kept his arm around her waist, addressing Dominic once more. "We'll hold the Luna ceremony in 3 days. That gives us time to retrieve the pendant and settle the matter of my mother's tribunal. I want increased patrols on our eastern border in case the news of Cecilia's identity leaks before we're ready to make our formal announcement." "Yes, Alpha," Dominic said, though he was looking at Cecilia with new eyes, assessing her not as a servant, but as his future Luna. "And the Lycan?" Cecilia felt the beast press against her leg, still seeking her comfort. "He stays with me," she said firmly. "I'm going to help him. And if there are others like him, wolves who've lost themselves to their beasts, I want to help them too." "Then we'll make space for them," Jeremiah agreed immediately. "Your gift shouldn't be hidden away. It should be used to heal, to protect, to strengthen all wolves who need it." The rightness of it settled into Cecilia's bones. This was what her family had died for, the belief that their power was meant to serve, not rule. And now she had a chance to prove it, to reclaim her bloodline's true legacy. "The Eastern Pacts will come," she said quietly. "When they learn I'm alive, they'll see me as a threat." "Let them come," Jeremiah replied with zero concern. "They'll find that threatening my mate was the last mistake they ever made." The possessive growl in his voice sent pleasant shivers down her spine. She'd spent so long being afraid, being alone, being small. But standing here in Jeremiah's arms with her gift finally free and a pack beginning to accept her, she felt something she hadn't experienced in 6 years. Hope. The crowd began to disperse, pack members heading back to their homes with plenty to discuss and process. A few lingered, watching their alpha and his newly revealed mate with curiosity. Cecilia caught sight of some of the kitchen staff she'd worked alongside, their expressions ranging from shock to, surprisingly, happiness. "Cecilia!" one of them called out. Maya, a young wolf who'd often snuck her extra food during the long shifts. "Is it really true? You're actually—" "I'm sorry I lied," Cecilia said, meaning it. "I know I deceived everyone." "You survived," Maya interrupted, smiling. "That's nothing to apologize for. And now you're going to be our Luna. That's actually amazing." The acceptance, freely given, made Cecilia's throat tighten with emotion. Maybe this could work. Maybe she really could build a new life here. Jeremiah's hand squeezed her waist gently. "Come," he said. "You've had enough drama for one night. Let me show you to your new quarters." New quarters? You're my mate and future Luna. Did you think I'd let you go back to the servants' wing? The reality of it hit her. She wouldn't be scrubbing floors anymore, wouldn't be sleeping on a narrow cot in a shared room, wouldn't be invisible. Everything had changed in the space of an hour. I'm not sure I know how to be anything other than what I've been. Jeremiah stopped walking and turned to face her fully, his hands coming up to cup her face with a gentleness that contrasted beautifully with his dominant presence. Then we'll figure it out together, he said. You don't have to be perfect, Cecilia. You just have to be you. The brave, kind, powerful woman who survived impossible odds and still chose compassion over vengeance. I was just trying not to die. You were being exactly who your parents raised you to be, he corrected. A Luna, a protector, a healer. You just didn't have a pack to lead yet. The words settled something deep in her soul, a piece of her identity she'd thought was lost forever when her family died. She wasn't just a survivor. She was still who she'd always been meant to be. She'd just been waiting for the right pack, the right alpha, the right mate. Thank you, she whispered, for seeing me, for believing me, for loving you, he finished, and the words hung between them like a vow. Because I do, Cecilia. I know it's fast. I know we barely know each other beyond the bond, but I felt you the moment I looked in your eyes tonight. You're mine, and I'm yours, completely. The mate bond flared between them, confirming the truth of his words. She could feel his emotions through it, fierce protectiveness, burning desire, and underneath it all, a deep well of love that took her breath away. I love you too, she said, and knew it for truth. The bond had given them this gift, instant recognition, unshakable certainty. They would have years to build on this foundation, to learn each other's quirks and histories and dreams. But the foundation itself was already solid. Jeremiah kissed her again, and this time there was a promise in it, of protection, of partnership, of a future where she would never have to hide again. When they finally reached his quarters, luxurious rooms that would now be theirs to share, Cecilia found herself laughing despite the emotional weight of the evening. This morning I was scrubbing the floors of this hallway, she said. Now I'm going to be living here. Life comes at you fast, Jeremiah agreed with a grin. Then his expression grew serious. But Cecilia, I meant what I said in the arena. You don't owe this pack anything beyond what you're willing to give. Your gift, your story, your past. You share those on your terms. No one will force you to be anything you're not ready to be. The consideration, the respect for her boundaries made her love him even more. I want to help, she said. I want to show everyone what the Silver Bloodline really stood for, but I'm scared. The Eastern Pacts won't just let this go. They'll see me as unfinished business. Then they'll learn what it means to threaten a Shadow Moon Luna, Jeremiah replied. I have alliances they don't, warriors they can't match, and a mate whose very presence terrifies them because she represents everything they tried to destroy. He pulled her close, his chin resting on top of her head. We'll face whatever comes together. And in 3 days, when I mark you officially as Luna in front of the entire pack, I'm going to make sure every wolf in every territory knows that you're protected. You're claimed. You're mine. Yours, Cecilia agreed, letting herself relax into his embrace for the first time in years. The Lycan had followed them to the quarters and now lay down across the threshold, taking up a guard position. It was still feral, still dangerous to anyone who might pose a threat. But for her, it was a protector. A reminder that her gift wasn't something to fear, but something to embrace. As Cecilia stood in Jeremiah's arms, looking out at the moonlit territory that would now be her home, she thought about the journey that had brought her here. 3 years of hiding, 6 years of grief, a lifetime of running from who she was. But tonight, in the arena, with a starved Lycan bowing at her feet and an alpha claiming her as his mate, everything had changed. She wasn't running anymore. She was home. "What happens now?" she asked softly. Jeremiah's arms tightened around her, possessive and protective. "Now," he said, "we build the future your family died for. We prove that the Moon's chosen bloodline was a gift, not a curse. We protect this pack and any wolf who needs healing. And we show the world that love and loyalty are stronger than fear and prejudice." "That's a tall order." "Good thing I have the most powerful Luna in wolf history at my side." Cecilia smiled against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart through the mate bond. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be challenges, threats, wolves who would never accept her. But for the first time since she'd watched her pack burn, she believed they could overcome them. Because she wasn't alone anymore. She had a mate who would fight for her. A gift she could finally use to help instead of hide. And a pack that was learning to see her not as a threat, but as their Luna. The moon hung full and bright overhead, bathing the world in silver light. The same silver that marked her throat, the same silver that had marked her family for generations. The moon goddess had taken everything from her 6 years ago. But tonight, standing in Jeremiah's arms with her future stretched out before her like a promise, Cecilia thought maybe, just maybe, she'd been given something even more precious in return. A second chance. A new beginning, and a love that would burn bright enough to light even the darkest night. "I'm ready," she said, "for all of it. The ceremony, the challenges, the future." "Then let's begin," Jeremiah replied, and kissed her beneath the watchful eye of the moon that had blessed them both. Outside, the Shadow Moon pack settled in for the night, their world forever changed by the revelation that had unfolded in their arena. Tomorrow would bring new questions, new challenges, new adjustments, as they learned to accept a Luna whose very existence rewrote their understanding of power and blessing. But tonight, in the Alpha's quarters, a lost princess and a powerful Alpha held each other close and dreamed of the Empire they would build together, not through domination or fear, but through healing, protection, and the unbreakable bonds of loyalty and love. The silver bloodline wasn't dead. It had just been waiting for the right moment to rise again. And rise it would, stronger, wiser, and absolutely unstoppable. Did you like the story? Do you want a part 2? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Also, tell us which state you're watching from so I can give you a shout out in the next video. Shout out to our friends from Milan, New Mexico, Kansas, Texas, Xenia, Ohio, Western North Carolina, Massachusetts, Queensland, Australia, Lewis, Scotland, Central Florida, San Jose, California, and more. Don't forget to subscribe so you can stay updated on our next uploads. Thanks for watching.